Have you ever watched an anime and thought, this is it? This is the one. This is the next big thing. You're hooked from the first episode. The characters are brilliant, the plot is gripping, the animation is breathtaking. It feels like you've stumbled upon a masterpiece in the making, a show destined for legendary status. But then, something goes wrong. The story starts to wobble, the pacing gets weird, and by the final episode, you're left with a bitter taste of disappointment, wondering what on earth just happened. It's a special kind of heartbreak, isn't it? The heartbreak of squandered potential. Today, we're diving into that feeling, exploring some of the most infamous anime that had all the ingredients for greatness, but somehow, somewhere along the way, completely fumbled the bag. Let us start with a classic example that still stings for many fans, The Promised Neverland. Season 1 was, without exaggeration, a phenomenon. It was a masterclass in suspense, a psychological thriller that kept us on the edge of our seats. The story of Emma, Norman, and Ray trying to escape a seemingly idyllic orphanage that was actually a human farm for demons was horrifying, intelligent, and emotionally resonant. The mind games, the desperate plans, the constant threat of discovery, it was perfection. The season ended on a huge high note. They escaped. The world was their oyster, albeit a terrifying, demon-filled oyster. We were all ready for Season 2 to explore this dangerous new world, to unravel its mysteries, to watch our heroes struggle and grow. And then, Season 2 happened. To say it was a disappointment is an understatement. It was a complete narrative collapse. Instead of adapting the critically acclaimed manga arcs that followed the escape like the Goldie Pond arc, which is a fan favorite for its intense action and incredible character development, the anime decided to skip. Well, pretty much everything. We're talking about over 100 chapters of manga content condensed and rearranged into a chaotic, rushed 11-episode mess. Major characters were cut, crucial plot points were ignored, and the complex, morally gray world of the manga was flattened into a simplistic good versus evil story. It culminated in a final episode that was literally a slideshow, breezing through years of character development and plot resolution in a matter of minutes. It felt less like a conclusion and more like the studio just wanted to get it over with. The promise of The Promised Neverland was a deep, sprawling adventure, but what we got was a frantic sprint to a finish line no one was satisfied with. Next up, let's talk about Tokyo Ghoul. The first season, much like The Promised Neverland, was a huge hit. It introduced us to Ken Kaneki, a student whose life is turned upside down when he becomes a half-ghoul. The series beautifully explored themes of identity, prejudice, and what it means to be human when you have to eat them to survive. The body horror was visceral, the action was stylish, and Kaneki's internal struggle was compelling. It was dark, it was edgy, and it had a fantastic, tragic ending that left everyone clamoring for more. Then came Tokyo Ghoul Root. The title itself was a hint that things were about to go off the rails. Instead of following the manga's established storyline, Ruta went for an anime original route where Kaneki joins Aogiri Tree, the very ghoul organization he was fighting against. On paper, it's an interesting what-if scenario. In execution, it was a confusing disaster. The plot became incoherent, characters' motivations made no sense, and Kaneki, our once relatable protagonist, became a silent, brooding figure who barely spoke. We lost all insight into his thoughts and feelings, turning him into a passive observer in his own story. Key events from the manga were either skipped or altered so much they lost their impact. The show became a series of cool-looking fights without any emotional weight connecting them. While the animation and soundtrack remained top-notch, the narrative heart of Tokyo Ghoul was ripped out, leaving a hollow shell that failed to satisfy both manga readers and anime-only viewers. The potential for a faithful, epic dark fantasy was traded for a failed experiment that pleased no one. Let's touch on a more recent example, Wonder Egg Priority. The first episode was a stunning, beautiful, and deeply unsettling exploration of trauma, bullying, and mental health. The animation was phenomenal, the symbolism was rich, and the story of Ioto fighting to save her friend was incredibly compelling. But as the series went on, the plot became increasingly convoluted and confusing. The finale, in particular, left many viewers with more questions than answers, and a feeling that the show's complex themes were not given a satisfying resolution. Next, Darling in the Franxx. It started as a popular mecha anime with strong emotional moments and interesting characters. The mystery of the world and the relationships between the pilots were compelling. But the final act of the series introduced aliens out of nowhere, a plot twist that many felt was jarring and disconnected from the rest of the story. The focus shifted from the character-driven drama to a large-scale space battle that felt like it belonged in a different anime. Then there's Sword Art Online. The Aimcrad arc is a classic for a reason. The concept of being trapped in a game where death is real was thrilling, and the journey of Kirito and Asuna was captivating. But after the Aimcrad arc, many fans feel the series lost its way, with subsequent arcs failing to capture the same sense of danger and emotional weight. Demon Slayer is a bit of a controversial pick because it's a massive global hit. The animation is, without a doubt, some of the best ever made. The fights are breathtaking. But for some, the story is too simple and the characters to one note to be considered a true masterpiece. It's a visual spectacle, but it lacks the narrative depth of other great anime. Seven Deadly Sins was a fun, engaging shonen anime in its early seasons. But in the later seasons, the animation quality took a nosedive, with many scenes becoming infamous for their poor quality. It was a sad decline for a once popular series. Finally, let's talk about Boruto. The idea of a series focusing on the next generation of Naruto characters was exciting. But the anime has been plagued by endless filler, a lack of compelling new characters, and an inconsistent tone. It has struggled to escape the shadow of its predecessor and carve out its own identity. And now for a more recent and perhaps more controversial entry, the final season of Attack on Titan. Now hold on, put down your pitchforks. Let me explain. Attack on Titan is, without a doubt, one of the greatest anime of the modern era. For the better part of a decade, it delivered a gripping, complex story with incredible world building and shocking twists. The journey from humanity's desperate struggle against giant monsters to a complex political narrative about war, freedom, and cycles of hatred was nothing short of brilliant. The production quality from WIT Studio and later MAPPA was consistently phenomenal. So, where did it go wrong for some people? It all comes down to the ending. The conclusion of Attack on Titan is one of the most polarizing in anime history. So what's the common thread here? In all these cases, the initial season set an impossibly high bar. After building up Eren Yeager as a complex anti-hero, or perhaps an outright villain, driven to commit global genocide to protect his friends and people, the final chapters and the final anime episodes reveal his true motivations. They created worlds we fell in love with and characters we cared about deeply. And for many, they felt underwhelming. The failure wasn't in the concept, but in the execution of the later stages. The explanation behind his actions, his conversations with Armin, and the ultimate resolution left a significant portion of the fanbase feeling that the story's core themes were undermined. Sometimes it's due to production issues, like trying to cram too much story into too few episodes, as with the Promised Neverland. Characters who had been built up for years seemed to act in ways that contradicted their established personalities. Sometimes it's a misguided attempt to create an original story that deviates from a beloved source material, like Tokyo Ghoul Square Ruta. The moral ambiguity that made the final arc so compelling was, in the eyes of many critics, flattened into a more simplistic, almost romanticized tragedy. And sometimes, as with Attack on Titan, it's about making controversial narrative choices for a highly anticipated ending that just don't land with a large part of the audience. It is not that the ending was objectively bad, and many people love it and defend it fiercely. It's a tough lesson for fans. We invest hours of our time and a lot of emotional energy into these stories. But for a story that was so consistently tight and thematically resonant, the ending felt like a wobble. When they fail to stick the landing, it feels personal. It raised more questions than it answered and left the grand, epic tale feeling a little smaller, a little less profound than it could have been. It's a reminder that even the most promising beginnings don't guarantee a satisfying end. The potential was there for a universally acclaimed, Breaking Bad level finale, but it ended up splitting its audience right down the middle. These anime serve as cautionary tales, monuments to what could have been. They had the spark of genius, the potential for legendary status, but for one reason or another, they stumbled before the finish line, leaving us to forever wonder about the masterpiece that got away. What anime do you think had legendary potential but ultimately fell short? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to read your own stories of anime heartbreak. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more content. See you next time.